Maybe you're standing in the exact same place I once found myself, right on the edge. You're still functioning, technically, but your mind? It's exhausted. You're holding it together on the outside, but inside, you're seconds from breaking. Pressure, comparisons, expectations, all piling up. You try to appear strong, but deep down, you know the truth. You're barely hanging on, yet you don't break. You endure, and that means something. This week, I hit a wall. Everything inside and out was just too much. And right when I was about to shut down completely, a quote from Epictetus came rushing to mind. It's not what happens to you, but how you interpret it that upsets you. I'm not gonna lie. In that moment, I wanted to curse him out. Like, seriously? When it feels like the whole world is falling apart, that's the wisdom I get? But then I took a breath, and that line stuck. Because leaving a toxic relationship, especially with a narcissist, doesn't just snap you back to peace overnight. No, the pain doesn't vanish. It echoes in your mind. You wake up with that invisible weight on your chest, like you still owe someone something, like you constantly have to prove yourself. To others, to yourself, especially to the person who never actually cared. And then it clicks. The emptiness you feel isn't a lack of love. It's the aftermath of control. It's withdrawal from manipulation. A narcissist doesn't just drain your energy, they rewire your reality. They convince you that everything revolves around them, that your worth depends on their approval, that your happiness only exists if they allow it. You don't see it right away, that's the trap. It starts with charm, with affection, with "I love you." Then comes the criticism, disguised as concern, then silence, then guilt. And suddenly you're caught in a cycle where nothing you do is ever enough. You try to please, to fix, to understand, but all that just feeds their game. Then comes the exhaustion. You keep trying, but nothing changes. Your body starts to speak. Anxiety, random fears, thoughts that won't shut off. And this is the point where many people fall, or give up, or go back. Because it's easier to endure familiar pain than to face the unknown. But the unknown, that's the only path to healing. And that's where Stoicism comes in. Stoicism isn't about pretending you're fine. It's not about hiding your pain. It's about learning what you can control and what you can't. And right there, in that space between, lies freedom. Freedom to stop reacting. Freedom from guilt. Freedom to stop orbiting around someone who kept you unstable on purpose. And if any part of this sounds like your story, it's not a coincidence. That pain you carry might not be just yours. There are so many of us out here, trying to reclaim our freedom, stumbling through the silence, relearning how to look in the mirror without shame. Drop a comment. Tell me which part hit home. What thought, memory, or emotion still grips you, even though you want to let it go? Don't worry about sounding poetic. Just write. Because when you put it into words, it starts to lose power. And maybe, just maybe, your words will help someone else feel less alone. The narcissist doesn't fear your anger. They fear your indifference. They're not shaken by your screaming. They're terrified of your silence. They're not scared of the fight. They're scared of being forgotten. Because when you stop reacting, they stop existing. And once you understand that, you finally step out of their game. But yeah, I know, it's hard. No one prepares you for this kind of grief. The grief of losing someone who's still alive. Someone who still texts you, pokes at you, tries to reel you back in. Not out of love, but out of control. They just want to see if the door's still open, if they can still unnerve you, if they still have the key to your peace. That's when Epictetus returns to your mind. And this time, you get it. What's breaking you isn't their actions. It's what you still carry from them. It's the belief that they need to understand you, that they owe you recognition, that they'll change, but they won't. And this is no longer about them. It's about you. About the moment you finally saw it. You can't change what happened, but you can decide what happens next. And that is power. Quiet. Internal. Real. The power not to respond, not to explain, not to fall back into the emotional traps dressed up as love but built to destroy. Every silent decision you make strengthens you. Every no you never used to say sets you free. Not because it's easy, but because now, you see, now you feel. Now, you're no longer blinded by the need to be accepted. Because acceptance doesn't come from out there anymore. It comes from within. And for anyone who's been in a relationship with a narcissist, this is everything. Because the deepest wound they leave isn't physical. It's in your identity. They make you believe you don't know who you are, and you spend years searching for the self they buried. Stoicism won't give you magic answers, but it will give you a direction. It's the anchor in the chaos. So maybe today, you still feel lost. Maybe you're just breathing, just surviving, and that's okay. Because just the fact that you're here, that you're listening, that you're trying to understand, that already is a different choice. A choice to walk out of the prison they built around your self-worth. If that first sentence rattled something inside you, maybe it's because it touched a part that's still raw. But it also showed you a way out. And that's what Stoicism is really about. Cutting out what no longer serves you. Owning what's yours. Letting go of what's killing you. Not to protect yourself, but to finally live free. There are days when the weight of your past feels too heavy to carry. Out of nowhere, memories of manipulation, humiliation, and emotional abuse come rushing back. Raw, vivid, and overwhelming. In moments like these, healing can feel like a distant dream, almost impossible to reach. The narcissist taught you to doubt yourself. Their voice became your inner critic, always questioning your choices, undermining your worth. But what if that voice could be silenced? What if you decided today to take back control over your thoughts, over your emotions? The Stoics remind us that while we can't control what happens around us, we can choose how we respond. The past can't be rewritten, the narcissist won't change. But you can change your response. You can shift from being a victim to being a survivor, from someone who endured to someone who overcame. This shift in mindset isn't easy. It takes repetition, patience, and kindness with yourself. But every time you catch yourself choosing how to react instead of falling back into old patterns, you grow stronger. You begin to see that your worth isn't defined by someone else's treatment of you. It's defined by how you choose to see yourself. Maybe the narcissist convinced you that you were nothing without them. But the truth? Without them, you are finally free. Free to discover who you really are. Free to breathe without their shadow looming. Free to build a life on your terms, not on their approval. Stoicism teaches us that real peace doesn't come from the outside. It comes from within. So even if the world around you feels chaotic, you can find calm. That stillness, that quiet strength inside you, is what allows you to face each challenge with courage and grace. When those painful memories resurface, don't let them drag you down. Let them remind you of everything you've already survived. Remember how far you've come. You are not who you were back then. You're wiser, stronger, more resilient. Every step you take toward healing is a win. Every moment you reclaim your self-worth is a triumph over the past. And even though the journey may be hard, you are not alone. There is a community. Others who have walked through the fire and are walking alongside you now. The Stoics believed that the key to lasting happiness, what they called eudaimonia, is to live in alignment with your values. Wisdom, courage, justice, self-discipline. When you choose to live guided by these virtues, you find meaning, you find peace, and that's something no narcissist can ever take from you. You might be wondering, where do I begin? Start small. Every day, give yourself a moment of reflection. Ask yourself, how can I act in line with my values today? How can I meet challenges with courage instead of fear? Healing isn't a straight line. Some days you'll feel powerful, other days fragile. But every day you choose to move forward is proof that your strength didn't die in that relationship. It was waiting to rise. The narcissist tried to break you, but they failed. Your healing is your rebellion, your courage, your quiet victory. And every time you choose to live honestly, to live boldly, you become a beacon for others still trying to find their way out of the dark. So keep going. Trust in your strength. And remember, even if this road is hard, the destination, a life of peace, joy, and authenticity, is worth every step. When you look back on your time with the narcissist, you might realize something heartbreaking. At some point, you stopped recognizing yourself. You had to bend, dim, shift, just to survive another day beside them. And in that constant self-erasure, piece by piece, you began to disappear. Until one morning, you woke up and didn't know who you were anymore. The narcissist made you live by their rules, your feelings, too much, your needs, selfish, your boundaries, inconvenient, your silence, a personal attack, your pain, weakness, and you believed it. You started accepting their version of reality as the truth. That was exactly what they wanted. But now everything's different. Because once you begin to wake up from that psychological fog, the questions start pouring in, and they hurt. Because behind each answer lies a truth you didn't want to face. But the Stoics said, "Don't run from the truth, stand in it." That's where your power is. Power isn't noise, it isn't revenge, it isn't pretending nothing hurts. Real power is looking your pain straight in the eye and choosing not to lose yourself again. That's exactly what you're doing now, with every breath, every choice to never go back to the place where you were breaking. Maybe there's still a part of you being pulled backwards. Maybe a small voice wonders, what if they could have changed? Or maybe it wasn't really that bad. But beware, that's the trap. That's the pain addiction you didn't ask for. It's the programming that got hammered into you again and again. And now that you know, you can begin to rewrite it. The Stoics won't offer you comforting lies like, it's all going to be okay. They'll tell you the truth. It will be hard, but you will become stronger. And they're right. Every painful step forward, every day your thoughts try to pull you under, is proof that you're still alive, that you're still fighting, that you're standing back up. The person who hurt you, they don't have power over you, unless you give it back to them. You'll need to remember that, especially when the anxiety hits like a weight in your chest. Don't suppress your feelings, but don't let them lead your life either. That's one of Stoicism's core truths. Emotions are real, but they are not the authority. Every day, you have a choice, and maybe today is the day you choose you, not in a selfish way, but with quiet self-respect. Choosing yourself means accepting that you deserve more than crumbs of love from someone who never truly saw you. People who've been with narcissists often crave closure. They want answers, apologies, explanations. But a narcissist won't give you any of that, not because they can't, but because they won't. That's where another Stoic truth kicks in. Your peace cannot depend on someone else's actions. If you're waiting for healing to come from their hands, it never will. But when you begin to take responsibility for your inner world, you start to grow. And yes, growth hurts. Especially when you're shedding pieces of yourself you built just to survive. But the thing is, you did survive. And now, it's time to live. Maybe this experience changed you. Maybe you're not the same person who once believed in fairy tales about being saved, but you are stronger, sharper. You'll never again follow a voice that asks you to shrink so someone else can feel bigger. Your strength is not a threat. It's truth, a truth they couldn't handle. The moment you realize your worth isn't tied to their opinion, that's when you become free. And this freedom? It doesn't need to shout. It can be quiet, steady, unshakable, like roots that finally won't be torn out. And if one day they come back, because they often do, you won't respond. Not out of fear, but because you've outgrown the need to defend, to explain, to prove. Your peace speaks louder than anything you could say. You keep asking yourself, how could I not see it? How did I miss all the red flags, excuse what should have never been acceptable, pretend it was all okay when my soul was silently screaming? But the answer is right there. You didn't see it because you were hoping. You were holding on to the belief that love could heal what was already broken. But love isn't a permission slip for manipulation. A narcissist knows exactly what they're doing. They're not misunderstood romantics, they're tacticians of the mind. They don't need to raise their voice or lift a finger to control you. They weaponize silence, turn closeness into a trap, and call it love. And you believed it was a relationship. Remember how many times you apologized for things you didn't even do? How many times you sacrificed your peace just to keep the calm? The Stoics would say, that wasn't weakness. That was you believing that harmony required self-erasure. But real peace never asks you to lose yourself. A healthy relationship doesn't eat away at your identity. It doesn't train you to live in suspicion. It doesn't twist your desires into tools for control. It doesn't make your chest tighten every time a message pops up or someone says their name. And if you recognize any of this, you were never alone. The Stoics taught us the power of knowing what we can change and what we must accept. You can't change him. You can't undo the pain he caused. But you can change what happens next. You can decide his actions no longer shape your story. That choice isn't easy, because sometimes it means giving up hope. The hope that one day he'll finally say, you were right. I'm sorry. But hope in this case is a poison disguised as comfort, because it keeps you trapped in a prison you've already learned to walk out of. Narcissistic abuse leaves no visible scars. On the outside you look okay, but inside you're waging war. And yet, you get up. You breathe. You take another step, even when everything in you wants to collapse. That is strength. You might not see progress every day. You might feel like you're starting over, but realizing something's wrong, that is progress. Choosing silence over another argument, that's a win. Not replying to their message, that's power. The Stoics would remind you, you don't need more of what's destroying you. You need less. So ask yourself, how much of the weight you carry isn't even yours? How many thoughts did he plant in you? How many doubts did he whisper until you believed them? How many times did he convince you you weren't enough, just so you'd keep giving? Every day you live without him, even when it hurts. You're being reborn. You're becoming someone new, not shaped by his reflection, but by your own awakening. And no one can take that from you. Don't minimize what you've done. Some people stay in that kind of pain for a lifetime. But you began to walk away. Even if you stumbled, even if you crawled, you moved. You're further than you think. And maybe, just maybe, someone else is hearing your story right now and finding their courage because of you. You'll have moments of doubt, days when you'll miss him, not him, but the illusion. But missing someone doesn't mean you made a mistake. It means you're human. It means you loved deeply. But now healing is your right. Your strength isn't in feeling nothing. It's in facing everything. Doing the hard things even when you're terrified. Not using the past as an excuse, but as a reason to never settle again. A reason to speak when you once stayed silent. And if ever you lose faith, remember what the Stoics said. There is something within you no one can touch. Not him, not the pain, not the past. It's your will, your choice, your path. And that's enough. There comes a point in the healing process when you realize you weren't looking for his love. You were looking to be seen, to be truly understood, to be accepted as you are, without being asked to shrink. But he never saw you, only a reflection of what he needed. Your pain, a weakness to exploit. Your empathy, a tool to keep you close. Your willingness to understand him, a method to keep you trapped in a loop with no exit. He didn't want a relationship. He wanted an audience. And you were the loyal spectator, until you finally saw the script was never written for you. One of the hardest parts of leaving a narcissist is this: you no longer trust what's real. Words lose meaning, gestures feel like threats, a smile triggers suspicion. And that's not paranoia, that's lived experience. But in that chaos, Stoicism offers stillness, peace, stability. Epictetus was born a slave. His body was owned, but his mind remained his own. He protected his will, even in chains. And that's the same power within you. Freedom doesn't begin out there. It begins inside. The moment you stop chasing validation from someone who never planned to give it. You might ask, why do I still think about him? Because you gave him a piece of your heart. Because you believed that if you loved harder, he'd love you right. But a narcissist doesn't love. He consumes. And the more you gave, the more you disappeared. Let this be a reminder. Your worth isn't tied to who rejected you. Your strength isn't in how much you endured. It's in your decision to begin again, even if you're scared. The Stoics said, courage is not the absence of pain, but the choice to act despite it. The memories will come at night, in quiet moments, out of nowhere. But each one is a crossroad. Will it drag you back or push you forward? That decision is no longer his. It's yours. People think healing means feeling nothing. It doesn't. Healing means feeling everything, but no longer letting it destroy you. It's standing in the storm and not crumbling. And when you do fall, rising again. Without shame, with understanding. The Stoics never told us to forget. They never said, don't be weak. They said, know what's yours, know what's not. The abuse wasn't your fault. It was a test, and you survived it. But survival isn't the goal. Living is. And to live is to claim peace. Not silence born of fear, but quiet born of self-respect. That peace begins when you stop apologizing for wanting more. Saying no for the first time might sting. It might feel cruel. It might feel like betrayal. But it's not. It's love. Love. For yourself. Because all the times you said yes while your soul screamed no, it cost you more than you realized. Someone who loves you won't destroy you. Someone who respects you won't make you question your worth. And you've already tasted the opposite, so why go back? You might still stumble for a while. There will be days when your mind drifts back to the idea that maybe, just maybe, you should have stayed. But when that happens, remember why you left. Not because it was easy, but because you needed to survive. And now, it's time to want more than survival. It's time to want life. When that old voice returns, the one that tells you you're not enough, don't shout back. Just answer calmly, firmly. You don't belong here anymore. Because you've made space inside yourself, a new space. One you're building thought by thought, choice by choice, with every step you take that doesn't lead backward. Even if you're moving slowly, you're still moving, and that means everything. Some days it creeps in, this feeling that something was left unfinished, that you should have said more, left differently, maybe never even started at all. But listen, just leaving was enough. There's no such thing as a perfect exit from an imperfect relationship. There's only the courage to say enough, even when the future is unclear. That voice in your head, the narcissist's echo, will linger for a while, not because it's right, but because you got used to it. The voice that once made you question whether you were too much, too sensitive, too complicated. But now you know, that was never about you. That was how they kept you small. The Stoics spoke of inner freedom, not as a destination, but as a daily practice. Every day you choose who holds the power in your mind. And today, it's no longer them. Not the one who abused you. Not the one who made you feel like your feelings were the problem. One of the greatest lies a narcissist tells is that you can't live without them, that you need them. But what you truly needed was acceptance. And now, you're learning to give that to yourself. Not through someone else's gaze, but by tuning into the truth inside you. Anyone who survived a relationship with a narcissist carries a quiet rage, not because of one argument or one cruel word, but because of the years lost, the peace stolen, the trust broken, that anger. It's not wrong, it's energy, and you can turn it into strength. The Stoics taught that emotions aren't the enemy. The danger is letting them rule you. So yes, you can be angry, you can be heartbroken, you can want to scream. But you won't destroy yourself to do it, you won't act from pain. Because now you are the one in control. Your progress may look slow. Others might say, "Aren't you over it yet?" But they weren't in your head when you questioned if you deserved to be respected. They weren't there when you kept quiet just to avoid another explosion. You were, and that's enough. One of the most powerful victories is realizing you're no longer afraid of their reaction. That you make a decision without hearing their voice in your head. That you laugh, and it doesn't feel like pretending. Those are the moments where freedom stops being a dream and becomes your reality. Maybe you're still learning how to trust. Maybe opening up feels dangerous. That's okay, because now you know what you won't accept anymore. Even if you're not sure what exactly you want, you've already made the most important move. You stopped tolerating manipulation. That's your new boundary. The Stoics said even the calmest soul can wage war, but not against others, against their own weakness, against their impulses, against fear. And that's what you're doing. Quietly, every day, you're fighting for your integrity. You're not someone who can be broken with a look, a gesture, a sentence anymore. Your strength lies in the fact that you're still sensitive, but no longer naive. That you still feel deeply, but you no longer bleed for everyone. Not because you're numb, but because you've learned to protect yourself. That urge to cry, that lingering ache, it's not weakness. It's proof you're healing. Because we can only change what we're willing to feel. And what we feel, we can release. And that's what you're learning now, how to let go. You don't overanalyze every message anymore. You're done explaining yourself. You're not waiting for an apology that'll never come. And even when doubt whispers, you don't lean in to listen. You don't go running back. Because you finally understand that the comfort they offered was just another form of pain. Your healing isn't loud. Not everyone will see it. But you feel it. In how your breath flows easier. In how your laughter feels real again. In how you finally stand on your own side. That's the beginning of a whole new life. A life you deserve. When you finally break free from a narcissist's grip, there's often a strange silence that follows. Not the quiet around you, but the quiet within you. It doesn't feel peaceful. It feels empty. And that emptiness can be scarier than the pain you were used to. For months, maybe years, you functioned in reaction to their moods. Your day revolved around how they woke up, what they said, what they wanted. But now, no one's scripting your thoughts, and that can feel unsettling. But this space, this unfamiliar quiet, is where renewal begins. The Stoics taught us to stay present, even in discomfort. Not to run, not to numb, to feel. And now you're feeling everything. Even the emotions you've buried for years. Grief, anger, regret, confusion, all of it. And that's okay, because what surfaces no longer controls you. One of the most important steps in healing is learning not to fear your own mind, to sit in stillness and not feel threatened by your thoughts. It might be new territory, because they taught you that silence was dangerous. But it's not. Silence is not your enemy. It's a mirror. And what you see in it depends on how honest you're willing to be with yourself. The Stoics would say truth isn't always comfortable, but it's essential. And the truth is, you now have the chance to begin again. Differently this time. Maybe you're still searching for logic in their behavior, still hoping there was some hidden meaning, but they don't think like you do. They're not looking for understanding or compassion. They're looking for control. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you're free. They made you believe that love has to hurt, that if it doesn't cost you, it's not real. But the Stoics knew real love doesn't require you to disappear, doesn't demand you surrender your dignity in exchange for affection. Right now you're standing in the space between what was and what will be, between what was taken and what you're rebuilding. And every moment where you realize you're okay being alone, that's a victory. Not every day will feel like progress. Some days the past will catch up to you. But they're no longer chains, they're shadows. And shadows don't wound. They remind. And you know now, you are more than your shadows. You are the one who survived, who is still learning, still growing. You may feel calmer now, but you're not numb. You notice more, feel more. You're learning what brings you peace. And above all, you're starting to trust yourself again. Not their words, not their judgment, but your own intuition. And that's something they never understood or controlled. The Stoics taught, don't waste time on what could have been. Focus on what you can do now. And now, it's time to build something new. Not from their blueprint, but from your truth, from your peace, from your healing. You deserve love that isn't conditional on obedience. You deserve relationships where you don't have to prove your worth. And you know what? You deserve days when you don't have to do anything, just be. No pressure, no need to justify your feelings. Sometimes you might feel the urge to call him, to write, to explain yourself. But stop. Ask yourself, do I really want this for myself? Or is it just because I'm afraid of the silence? And when you answer, you'll realize there's nothing left to explain, because you've already understood everything. And this is your new strength, not in what you say to others, but in what you no longer need to say, because you've healed it from within. You might have thought that healing would look like a single moment, a day when you wake up and it no longer hurts. But the reality is different. Healing isn't an explosion. It's a quiet light in the darkness, a small glow that spreads every day you choose not to turn back. And maybe you've already noticed that you're no longer reacting the way you used to. You don't apologize anymore. You don't explain yourself. You don't spend hours thinking about what to say. And this isn't coldness, it's peace, it's boundaries, it's the new language of self-respect. The narcissist taught you that your worth depends on how they see you. But now you know that their view was distorted. They only saw what they could use. And you don't want to be used anymore. You don't want to be an instrument for someone's ego. You want to be a person, to feel, love, live, without fear. Maybe you've wondered if you could ever be enough for them. But that's the wrong question. The real question is, were they ever capable of seeing you for who you truly are? And the answer is no. Because to a narcissist, you're not a person. You're a function. The Stoics teach you not to give value where there's no reason, not to invest energy in things that lack balance. And your relationship with them was exactly that. Imbalance. You gave. They took. And the more you gave, the more of yourself was lost. Today you're starting to choose differently. You no longer respond to everything. You don't listen to everyone. You don't open up to anyone who offers you attention, because attention isn't love. And you know now that love that hurts isn't love. It's a trap. Maybe you once needed proof that you were enough. You needed to hear "I love you" from someone who was also tearing you apart. But now you're learning that the greatest proof isn't in their words. It's in the fact that you chose to leave. In the fact that you stood up to the fear they planted inside you. Not everyone will understand. People who haven't been through this will shake their heads. They'll tell you you're exaggerating, that everyone has their flaws. But you know, your body remembers. Your mind bore the consequences. And your soul is rising now. And that's a truth you don't need to defend. The Stoics often said that what others think is beyond our control, and that true freedom is stopping to care about it. And you, who were once dependent on the opinions of someone who manipulated you, are now starting to live outside their shadow. Maybe it still hurts, but the pain doesn't consume you anymore. It doesn't paralyze you. It doesn't control you. It's there, but you stand. And that's the difference between being in pain and being controlled by it. You are free now. Every new day is an opportunity, not to forget, but to remind yourself that you've moved on. You don't wait for a message anymore. You don't count the hours of silence. You don't ask, "What did I do wrong?" Because you've already found the answer. Nothing. The narcissist never wanted you to grow, because the more you grew, the further you slipped from their grasp. And today, you're beyond their reach. Not because you ran away, but because you understood. And that's something they'll never be able to do, understand themselves. You, on the other hand, are getting to know yourself more every day. You're learning what makes you feel good, what feels comfortable, where you feel safe. And that's not weakness. That's the foundation of a new version of you, a version that won't let itself be reshaped by the needs of others. And if you ever think that all of this was in vain, remember, it wasn't. Your pain was a teacher. Your journey is a testimony. And your healing is the answer, not to them, but to you. One of the strangest feelings after leaving a narcissist is not knowing what you want anymore. Not because you're confused, but because your desires were ignored or shaped to suit them for so long. You focus so much on their needs that you forgot about your own. You'll start asking yourself questions you never would have before. What kind of music do you actually like? What would you do if you didn't have to fear someone putting you down? Who are you without their voice in your head? And it's in these questions that the building begins. The Stoics would tell you that knowing yourself is the highest form of wisdom. It's not about being perfect, it's about being true. And you're learning to be honest with yourself, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it hurts, because you no longer want to live in someone else's story. The narcissist taught you to stay silent when you had something to say, taught you to apologize when you hadn't done anything wrong, and you adapted to this because you thought that's what a relationship was. But a relationship that forces you to deny yourself is not a relationship. It's a prison. Maybe you once regretted letting yourself be manipulated for so long. Maybe you blamed yourself for being blind. But stop. Your trust wasn't a mistake. Your effort to understand wasn't weakness. Wanting love doesn't make you guilty. On the contrary, it shows you have a heart. And that's what remains with you. A heart that keeps beating. That's healing. That may still bleed, but knows that no one who only used it belongs there anymore. Now it's time to protect it. Not to lock it away, but to protect it. And give it only to someone who understands what real connection means. The Stoics taught that actions are more valuable than words, and you've spent years listening to promises that were never kept. Now you know that words without actions are just a mask, and you don't need masks anymore. You're looking for authenticity. Now you can spot when someone is manipulating you. You no longer feel the need to justify behavior that hurts you. And that's not cynicism, it's maturity. It's knowing that empathy without boundaries isn't a virtue, it's suicide for the soul. Maybe you're still sensitive, still easily upset. Some things still trigger you. But the difference is, now you know what's happening inside you. You don't close your eyes anymore. You don't run away. And that's a huge shift, because awareness is the beginning of change. The Stoics guide you to recognize what's within your power, and the truth is, your inner peace is yours alone. You can protect it. You can lose it. But most importantly, you can choose not to sacrifice it for someone who doesn't deserve it. The one who loves you won't test you, won't doubt you, won't force you to prove yourself. And while this may sound like common sense, it might not have seemed that way for you for a long time, but now you know. And with that knowledge, there's no going back. You may not see it, but your transformation is deep. You're no longer the one who walked on eggshells, who feared expressing an opinion, who feared disappointing someone who constantly disappointed you. You're no longer a silent observer of your own life. You're the one holding the wheel.